Chapter 11, Mixing 'em All Together. 200 years ago, in a friendly writing competition, author Mary Shelley tried to create the most horrifying tale imaginable. She won the bet with her tale Frankenstein. The tale describes how a scientist doesn't quite create life from scratch, that's God level stuff, but instead takes the pieces of dead guys, mixes them all together, and creates an abomination. In the story, the true monster was Dr. Frankenstein. Mary Shelley's nightmare was that as humans, if we aspire, then we can reach. Dr. Frankenstein aspired and crossed the lines. His monster turned out to be better than normal humans, bigger, smarter, and far more passionate, which turned to wickedness and murder as he kills his creator. Oh my, Mary. 3,000 years earlier, Nebuchadnezzar shared the same dream as Mary Shelley. He dreamed that humanity would one day create an evil out of the parts of other evil men to make Mwahaha the ultimate evil in the galaxy. Our warnings about the Antichrist seem to predict an Antichrist monster. Or I could be wrong about all this. I admit that it's some pretty far-fetched stuff. My theory is largely based on verb tenses. Was, is, will be. Ultimately, it won't matter. The Antichrist will show up and do his thing. Don't forget his prophet either. That's last chapter. These two are showing up soon, and it doesn't really matter who their kings were, if that theory is even correct. Yet there is a reason why the prophecies were given. And the way they were given, I think that matters too. So let's recap before digging deeper into my theory. Perhaps the earliest known end times theory came from Enoch, who not only walked with God, but also saw two cataclysms in his vision, the water and the fire. Now, it's tough to know how much of our modern version of Enoch we should trust, right? Peter brings up Enoch's prophecy. So this can be found in 2 Peter verse 1. This second epistle, beloved, I now write unto you, in both which I stir up your pure minds by way of remembrance, that ye may be mindful of the words which were spoken before by the holy prophets, and of the commandment of us the apostles of the Lord and Savior. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. But the heavens and the earth, which are now by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. So here we have Peter connecting the flood and the fire. I believe he's got a good reason to do that. Peter brings up the flood again when he talks about the evil of those days and how God still managed to pull out 8 people in the last hour. 1 Peter 3 reads, when once the long suffering of God waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was preparing, wherein few, that is, 8 souls, were saved by water. Peter likely remembers the days of Noah comparison from the time he heard Jesus compare the two eras. So Luke 17:26 reads, "And as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man." Earlier in this book, I talked about triggers for the end times. Quite obviously, the big boom of the sixth seal will herald the Antichrist, which is when that 3.5-year countdown begins. But as I've shown, supervillains are not unique. We've had several Antichrists between the first and the last, huh? We've also had plenty of violence, haven't we? Yet in the days of Noah, the most unique feature of the flood was the Nephilim. A reminder, Genesis 6:1 reads, "And it came to pass when the men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown." Again, many Christians do not subscribe to the most epic version of this passage, since it's a little embarrassing in a modern world. Giants. Go ahead and ignore that word. What are we left with? Group A breeds with Group B to produce Group C. God made Group A, and God certainly made Group B. But he did not make Group C. Group C is an abomination. Beginning with a flood and going all the way past Nimrod to Ramses and Moses, God goes out of his way to eliminate giants. My theory on why? Genetics. This is the final straw that breaks the camel's back. This is the abomination that once again makes God hit the reset button. Last time, he used water. Next time, he'll use fire. What's so offensive? DNA makes us unique. Each person's genetic code spells out physical and behavioral traits. The billion little strands hold so much information and, quite likely, hold secrets we don't even understand yet. Whether a radish or a Russian, this DNA code is the blueprint for our design. While genetic code can modify from generation to generation, we'll skip a discussion on evolution, it's still a natural process. It's a godly process. Back in the days of Noah, the sons of God created abominations. Today, rogue scientists can create abominations to make something that God did not intend to exist. That's a major violation. That's a final straw. Expressing outrage at genetic engineering would be hard to explain to modern humans, let alone humans who lived thousands of years ago. But the visuals given to us seem pretty clear. A 7-headed dragon? That's not natural. Animals with traits from other animals? That's not natural. A man made up of pieces of other men? Yeah, that's not natural. A man being made up of 7 dead kings? That's not natural either. So do you see the pattern? Even though Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar knew nothing about chromosomes, they were freaked out by the monster man described in Daniel 2. I feel there is a great clue hidden in the details of this passage. After all the symbolism about kingdoms, we get this weird phrase. Daniel 2:43 in the King James Version reads, "And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay." I mean, ew. Seed. Yep. How's the monster man of Daniel 2 going to be assembled? With the seed of men. Now, ignoring the literal adhesive quality of, this glue is symbolic. We know from John that the 7 kings will be dead before the arrival of the 8th. Dead guys can't offer their seed. So why bother using this metaphor? The seed of men is a good way to explain to a 600 BC audience, and contemporary audiences too, that the monster man will be created by the stuff inside of the seed, the genetic code. Look again how John describes his monster man. This is from Revelation 17:7. "And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is a mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Was and is not and shall, well, to me, that means the kings are from the past, present, and future. The bottomless pit, yet they all die and descend to Sheol, the underworld. Not written in the book of life, this means they're not normal humans. They're most likely the sons of perdition. Being the 8th, well, that's the Frankenstein Antichrist, the scary one. Of the 7 means, to me, made up of the 7. And of one mind is a genetic hybrid with one consciousness. The DNA guides him. Now, I just can't unsee what I've seen. I can't unread what I've read. I can't unthink what I've thunk. I'd love to diminish my concept of the Antichrist and make it just some random guy, but biblical text, both Old Testament and New Testament, goes to great length to make it more complicated than that. Again, in my early years, I was obsessed with genetics and DNA, so applying the concept to those verses frightens me a bit. As Mary Shelley speculated, hoping for moral scientists is problematic when humanity frequently crosses the line out of curiosity. The whole forbidden fruit metaphor works well. I'm going to stop arguing the case and apply the theory to some other verses about the Antichrist. For this theory to work, 4,000 years ago, this theory would have been unimaginable. 400 years ago, scientists were still dabbling in alchemy. 40 years ago? Oh, heck yeah. In the 1980s, genetic research exploded in the laboratory, and in pop culture, We suddenly had updated horror stories involving cloning and bringing dinosaurs back from extinction. Science played it dumb in public, with Dolly the sheep getting the most attention. Biotechnology students at MSU, for example, could imagine careers turning cauliflower plants goofy colors by flipping a few chromosomes around. But elsewhere, the talented scientists were rolling up their sleeves. Somewhere, the boundaries were being pushed. Scientifically, I believe we could pull off this crazy theory. What about the archaeology? Yes, we need Indiana Jones for that part, don't we? We'd need DNA samples of each of the 7 kings. So let's look to see if it would even be possible. The Antichrist soup shopping list. Ingredient number 7, Adolf Hitler. So after shooting himself in the head, he was found in that Berlin bunker, and the world was told the news. But what happened to the body? Oh, we lost it. My bad. Seriously? Now, this led to crazy theories about Hitler living, but that's not where I'm going. I'm assuming he really did shoot himself in the head, but then somebody kept the body. This allows us to get a sample of DNA, doesn't it? Even without the body, we have enough stuff of Hitler to get DNA samples in other manners. The American forces could have boxed up stuff at the Eagle's Nest in Wewelsburg Castle. DNA from Hitler is pretty easy. So let's look at ingredient number 6, Domitian. My biggest concern with this one is that Romans love to burn their leaders in great funeral pyres. Most historians believe Domitian was cremated after the inglorious end of his reign. But remember, he was out of favor and would not receive honors. So yes, there are theories about his body being retrieved by his childhood nurse, who likely did the honors of cremation. But remember that Domitian did not worship the modern Roman gods. He worshipped the old school gods. This gets slippery quickly. I did a quick Google search, and guess what the first 3 words given to me by our AI monster? This lost monument. Seriously, Domitian's tomb is lost. Slippery stuff indeed. So Domitian's DNA is suspicious. Ingredient number 5, Antiochus Epiphanes. He had a noted death, but his burial is pretty obscure. His son did become the new king, so we can assume that evil dad was buried in the family crypts, likely in the capital city of Antioch. Unfortunately, the kid didn't rule for more than a few years before a distant relative seized the throne for himself. Shortly after, the Romans and Parthians gobbled up the kingdom. So we need the best from Indiana Jones to track down this tomb. Antiochus Epiphanes' DNA is obscure. Ingredient number 4, Alexander the Great. This one's a mystery. After his sudden death, likely Cassander in my book, his family was wiped out, again Cassander, and his restoration project of Esagila was demolished, again due to Cassander. Despite his very specific burial plans, Alexander's golden coffin was hijacked en route to Egypt and then vanished, leaving countless theories. Quite obviously, Alexander's allies knew his legacy was under attack. So somebody somewhere knows where the body was hidden. It's almost like Alexander knew his DNA would be important one day. So Alexander's DNA is hidden. Ingredient number 4, Ramses the Great. Got it. Oh, yeah, that's right. We got it. While the Egyptian pharaohs thought they were being sneaky by burying their corpses under massive stone pyramids, humans have a way of figuring stuff out. During the 18th dynasty, these New Order Egyptians, without direct ties to the previous dynasties, relied on caves near Thebes. So we have a preserved mummy of Ramses, which told scientists that he even had reddish hair. A descendant of Tantalus? Ramses the Great's DNA is in a museum. Ingredient number 2. This one is probably the most problematic, since this was almost 4,000 years ago. While some of his peers in Egypt made tombs to endure, ancient Babylon got conquered a whole bunch of times. Speculatively, I'd like to picture Alexander the Great searching for it, but I have no connection in reality. For this one to work, I'd need ancient tomb raiders to collect this corpse and put it in a safer place than Babylon. So Nimrod's DNA is likely lost. And ingredient number 1, Lamech. This one is fun. Why fun? The flood. In concept, Lamech's city and kingdom got washed away in the Great Flood. And if you accept any of the specific details listed in Genesis, we're talking a cataclysmic, planet-scouring Brillo pad of death. No one has a clue where anything was located before the flood. I mean, that would take some genius-level Solomon wisdom. Oh, wait. Like Nimrod, Hitler, and Alexander went looking for traces of the old world. Solomon was also seeking for similar details. According to legend, not really biblical stuff, but ask your Hebrew friend. According to legend, Solomon sent his guys out on a treasure hunt to the corners of the world prior to building the temple. This crazy time period resulted in tales of the Shamir, the demon Asmodeus, and a magical ring. My point? Folks 3,000 years ago might have had a better idea of the old world geography than we do today. A hidden kingdom with a hidden tomb? We'd need an Indiana Jones dialed up to 10. My theory might work better in a novel, which is why I wrote The Alchemist's Tomb. But with organized bad guys, remember the Gnostics, there is a chance of this theory working. Of course, we might not need DNA. I have another theory. Check out the Dreamcatcher Chronicles. Gosh, it turns out those are both Christian fiction, aren't they? Anyways, I have another theory that explores the idea of all 7 antichrists descending to the bottomless pit. Guess that means they're dead, huh, Captain Obvious? Well, when number 8 is of the 7, and yet these have one mind, it makes me think that they might have some sort of spiritual mental connection like, dead Obi-Wan Kenobi had with Luke Skywalker. So yes, the DNA hybrid monster has big problems to overcome. But thanks to the efforts of Ancestry23 DNA and me, we might not need an archaeologist for much longer. And the world worships. Walking it back, it doesn't matter if I went 7 for 7 on my candidates or 0 for 7. The most dangerous aspect of the Frankenchrist is what would happen to our cultures. Despite Satan's best efforts, Christianity started as a spark and turned into a wildfire that spread across the world. Whether organic or nefarious, Other religions always competed with first Judaism and then Christianity to keep humans from a healthy relationship with God. With the Frankenchrist, who needs God? Who needs faith when you have immortality? Take a look at the reaction to the Antichrist. This can be found in Revelation 13:3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. Now, death, only a celebrity, a quite dead celebrity, would work for this magic trick. The world needs to be familiar with the person. It can't be some insignificant farmer or carpenter. It'll likely be one of the 7 kings. Oh, and to impress the folks that might use the mostly dead card, pick somebody who's been dead for a while. Now, the word healed. Too many I saw a tunnel candidates, right? This can't be somebody who flatlined on the operating table. Heck, my dad saw his own heart flatline and witnessed the ER personnel grab the paddles and shock his heart to restart beating. I mean, stuff like that happens. To impress any scoffer and skeptic, you'll need a candidate that is very dead. Now, let's look at the word wondered. Pick a king, any king. Ramses the Great? Okay, so we clone Ramses. Is it more impressive to make an adult clone or an infant clone? Adult clone, right? But here's the rub. Making a photocopy of you or your dog Fido is cool science, but it doesn't eliminate your fear of death. We don't want to be gone when we die. We want to come back. If scientists cloned Ramses, used 3D printers to build all the parts according to the DNA blueprint, and zapped him back to life, and he drooled like a newborn, who would care? But if he woke to consciousness and then could write hieroglyphics, dang! I mean, that's really Ramses. Let's look at the word worshipped. Why would you need God if scientists could restore your DNA and bring your consciousness with it? Why would Muslims need Allah? Most religions are built on the concept that there will be judgment or reward in the afterlife. Well, with cloning and consciousness, I mean, baseball's Ted Williams could be cloned and know how to hit home runs. Imagine the Red Sox farm system with a team full of Ted Williams clones. Now, let's look at the term blasphemy against God, if I can say it. Science would eliminate the need to worship God. Carpe diem. Seize the day. If it makes you happy, do it. Why pay for health insurance when $19.99 could get you cloning insurance? We'll bring you back and you can get right back on that merry-go-ride forever. Regardless of how you interpret all 7,777 prophecies about the end times, an end to religions is coming, thanks to the possibility of science and DNA. Moral codes? Sure. A belief in the afterlife or judgment? LOL. It won't matter with what is being described. Christ conquered death, but now we can patent it and mass produce it. This will be like our Tower of Babel. Just like God watched them stacking stones day after day, he's watching science get closer and closer to unlocking God's awesome creation, DNA, and using it against their Maker. The clock is ticking even before perdition's great magic trick is revealed. What the theory would mean. Remember the metaphor of Janus and Jambres versus Moses? Expect the bad guys to be able to pull off a miracle. The priests of Ramses were ready for their big day. They snapped their fingers and transformed their staffs into snakes, which were eaten, yes. But the enemy is real, and the power of perdition should not be underestimated. Expect the dark miracle. But what led up to it? So let's assume that scientists can create a genetic hybrid with the best, or worst, traits from these 7 kings. We'd need motivated bad guys with a plan. I mean, forget my choices for the 7 heads. Those names are irrelevant in the prophecy. We'd need bad guys who could access these old kings. From the Gnostics like Helena Blavatsky to Hitler's fear of gypsies and Freemasons, we'd need some organized secret societies to be working on this audacious plan. For the Antichrist to show up immediately after the 6th seal, the planning needed to start long before I came up with the idea for a plot in my fictional novel series. Nimrod seemed to know about Lamech's old kingdom. Ramses knew about the importance of protecting DNA. Alexander seemed to know about Nimrod. Antiochus seemed to know about how to wage war on God. And Hitler seemed to know all of the above. My point? Gathering of the DNA needed to happen. But then what? Unlike Nebuchadnezzar's nightmare, we're not sewing body parts together. 4 decades ago, the brightest and best genetic engineers needed to be hired for this special project, since this will be a cutting-edge project. I mean, if it were me, instead of sewing body parts together, I'd be weaving the genetic codes of 7 into 1/8 body to create the 5 + 1 + 1 = 7 = the 8th Antichrist. But wouldn't you test the theory? If you've got Alexander's DNA, why not make an Alexander clone? So in my crazy lab 40 years ago, we could have straight up cloning going on at the same time you're making your hybrid. I mean, see how much fun it would be to play mad scientist? Opening the gates of hell. Normally, death is a one-way street. Christ flipped the idea on its head 2,000 years ago, but Beelzebub's time as gatekeeper has been unblemished since that day. Yet, 2 clues given to us trouble me. The phrase, ascend out of the bottomless pit, and these have one mind. Somehow, the one mind of the Antichrist will be fueled by the others, who quite obviously will ascend out of what we call hell. How does a soul ascend out of hell? Does Beelzebub open the gates for them? Is that the angel who unlocks them, Apollyon? Oh wait, we do have a prime suspect, and I've saved him for the last chapter. It's time to meet the prophet.